Okay, so last night, Creature Features, the YouTube channel, the accurate one, aired Mars Needs Women, which I believe MST3K might have spoofed to. I think so. It says 1967-68 movie is Yvonne Craig and Jim Kirk in it. No relation to Captain Kirk, but anyway, yeah, girl from Batgirl. Batgirl from Batman and Robin, the Batman Robin show from the 60s. Yeah, it's an odd little movie. And I've seen the spoofy versions of it, the riff tracks versions, but not the actual sit down and watch the movie. The guest star was the now old man version of that played Timmy on Lassie, which was funny. But yeah, he never fell down a well, which he pointed out. That was the name of his book, but never actually happened. That was a meme that came out later. Yeah, so I believe that was an SNL sketch that did something like that. I think that's where they got that from. Yeah, so you can blame Saturday Night Live for that one. Much later, the 70s. But yeah, Mars Needs Women. This is not going to be a long review because exploitation movie from the 60s. Yeah, it's misogynistic as all get up, but the 60s was a strange time apparently. I was born in 1970, so I only know it from history. It appears that although also from Star Trek, the original Star Trek was done in the late 60s, so there's a little bit of that in there too in Star Trek. The idea that the female stewardesses have to be a certain way, or unmarried, or like the female reporter, how unusual, or a college homecoming queen. I know for sure that they don't have that in the 90s when I was in college. Yeah, they didn't have the homecoming. They didn't do that. That was only high school. College wouldn't have that. Well, where's that coming from? So by the 90s, that did not exist anymore. Within 30 years, you won't do it. Maybe they do it in the Ivy League schools. I don't know, homecoming queen. That's odd. That's a high school thing. Anyway, so yeah, so allegedly takes place in Houston, Texas. Allegedly has these 5 Martians come to Earth. There only appear to be 3 of them, but it's supposed to be 5 that come to Earth because their genetics are malfunctioning and they are only producing male children, so it's 1 in 100 births. So they decide to go to Earth to kidnap hot women, mostly blondes, to take back to Mars. And yeah, that's the premise. They all have to be blonde and white, of course. That's an Aryan thing. Weird. Even though technically the term Aryan refers to North Africa, and they're not really white. They'd be olive-skinned. But the Nazis were stupid. They didn't know what they were talking about in the 40s. So not supposed to like the bad guys. Oh, that Aryan race thing doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so yeah, Mars Needs Women. They're looking for the perfect specimen. So the Martians are space Nazis, kind of, except for the sympathetic one named Yob, who gets a girlfriend, and Yvonne Craig, the only A-list actor at the time they could get to play it. Bubbles was the stripper, though. You'd think this with a movie premise like this, it would be more fun, but it actually isn't. It was kind of a slog, even on Creature Features, where they didn't really discuss the movie. Usually, the old John Stanley era, they would discuss the movie a little bit, but apparently this one had so many issues that they just didn't talk about the movie. Instead, they talked about other things like meeting celebrities and stuff. Santa Rosa thing. Well, my nephew no longer lives in Santa Rosa. I have a niece up there. Found a separate his cousins up there. So yeah, we're there. That the hotel that the creature feature people stay in is kind of skanky. I've heard of it. It's like, yeah, well, I don't know if you'd want to stay there. But a lot of that area was in a forest fire a couple of years ago, or a land fire. Yeah, brush fire. Anyway, and then there was another brush fire on the other side over here, on the other side of the foothills. This year, last year, now 2019, now 2020. So a lot of that stuff is probably gone at this point. But yeah, yeah. This movie is so on the cheap that they had stock footage of planes landing and flying and taking off, and then not only dubbed over voices, but over a loudspeaker for a good 10 minutes of the beginning of the movie. This loudspeaker, a shot of a loudspeaker and a noise coming out. Like, they couldn't get an actor to say any of those lines and make it look more interesting. Wow. They go to a planetarium at one point. The Peanut Gallery shows up. And they go to that guy and Yvonne Craig, the Martian, go to the Peanut Gallery. There's a hypnotizing scene that's rather homoerotic, but they didn't realize it. But it totally is. It's like, you will not remember being hypnotized. I was like, oh, you were a man, human, handsome. It's like, okay. They didn't realize how messed up that was a funny scene. But yes, so, I wonder what else he hypnotized him to do. Anyways. Yeah, they go to the planetarium, talking about Mars. They mentioned the sleepers. There's a couple other articles on it. God. Oh, they go to Mars, the planetarium breaks. There's the peanut gallery. There are kids there, basically. It's an old howdy-doody term for children making noise in the studio audience. Apparently this thing aired on TV, but never aired anywhere in theaters, or at least not very much in theaters. I remember black and white. This was not I don't know if this was the colorized version, but hopefully they colorized it. Yeah, it kind of looked it. Yeah. Maybe they found a color print of it. I don't know. But yeah, black and white TV back then. But yeah, seeing it in color was a little weird. But yeah, that's why it looks a little whitewashed, because you have the colorized version. Yeah, the Ted Turner colorized version. I assume that, yeah. I don't think they had the budget for anything beyond that. So yeah, everything looked a little weird. If there was actually a colored print, it was a fairly good color print, but I think it might have been colorized. The aspect ratio appeared to be per 16 millimeter blown up, so it had the bars on either side. So it was probably a 16 millimeter reprint. It was a good copy. It didn't have a lot of noise and grain in it. But that they used for creature features to put it on a TV screen. But yeah, but it was on YouTube, so it didn't matter. It could have been 6:9; it would have worked. But yeah, yeah. Also, some of the science, of course, is silly. We hadn't sent any Mariner probes to Mars yet. We hadn't sent Viking and Mariners we hadn't sent probes to Mars yet. So in the story, Mars and the canals is mentioned during the planetarium scene. And the guy goes into elaborate detail about the canal thing. And making one wonder, what is the guy a Martian? Immediately. There's a Martian hysteria thing. They mentioned the reporter scientist lady mentions the sleep freeze thing as if she too is a Martian and knows all about like suspended animation and stuff, which doesn't make any sense. Then they raise the Martians have landed in an ice factory. They have the ship in there, and they have chemicals in the ice factory. Because I'll explain that off to the side. Because abandoned ice factories always have stuff lying around. help feed the Martians somehow. That doesn't make sense. It's silly. It's probably not supposed to. Yeah. When the first probes landed on Mars in the early 70s, they found it completely dry and barren and cold. There's no one ever there. There were no canales. There was a face on Mars, allegedly. But about 15 years later, they sent other probes there and discovered that was just sun tricking the light onto this mountainside. It was higher resolution picture of it, just like a mountain with like a point in the middle, like vaguely a nose. I guess you were really like looking to the side, but it really did not look like anything when they saw it. Really didn't. Oh no, there's totally forests and canals there and everything. This Martian bacteria from that rock thing. But yeah, and saline water, but no humanoids with needing Martian women. Well, it was probably not meant to be anything other than an odd. Yeah, it just. It wasn't as much fun as it got out to be. I guess, well, if it aired on TV, it couldn't be like raunchy or anything because it was on television. But yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I was just expecting like at least them to be taking the campiest and not making it serious. They were trying to be serious, and it was even all more ridiculous because they were trying to make it serious. They needed to just go with the and this is 60s weird 60s sensibility of how people were done, and not that great. It's just a cult classic, but it's Valley of the Dolls. So, anyways, so in the the Mars needs women. Well, it doesn't. There was a Rob Zombie song that was made later. There was Mars Attacks. It was a spoof of War of the Worlds, I think, originally, though, because they reference it. Over on that one, the Martians were weird alien things too. War of the Worlds has been remade several times. But my late father, who passed away in 2009, was a World War II veteran. He was actually listening to the radio. Well, not watching it, listening to the radio during the War of the Worlds broadcast. He was actually one of those people that was there listening to it, being extremely analytical and and future engineering type, watching it, going like, okay, this is fiction. Yeah, it's a made-up radio show. He was not freaked out. Everyone else was. He's just sitting there going, "I got come on, space Martian." And sure enough, it was a radio show, radio drama. Now, if Buck Rogers had showed up, that would have, then he would have believed it. Buck Rogers, yeah. There's a thing they could remake. Anyway, so that was my review of Mars Needs Women, which I thought would be a lot more fun and wasn't. Yeah. Oh, it had Yvonne Craig in it. I met Yvonne. Our cast met Yvonne Craig. She was at one of the Big Wow Comic Fest things. No, it wasn't Big Wow Comic Fest. It was it might have been. No, it was a comics. It was the Time Tunnel Toy Comic Fest show thing in Big. I think it was a Big Wow too. But yeah, so she did the circuit. She was at both in that year before she died. She was in her 60s or late 60s, early 70s, yeah. So my friend Tim was a big fan of the character, and was surprised that she was old enough to be his mother. She said, "Dude, I didn't realize she was like my mother." I was like, "Yeah, she probably would be. She was in that show in the 60s. It was like 2000 and what was it, 2015 or something like that, 14 or 15, maybe earlier, 2013 probably. Yeah, so it was like, yeah, she would be like 60 something at that point. Yeah, so that's funny. Yeah, she was in this, but in this movie, she was in her prime. So oh, I don't know if she went on to. I think she did the Batman character at the same time. I think this movie was filmed over a period of a week. The Martian ship model would be cool to own as a toy. You can barely see it. I think it's probably the size of a dinner plate that's been turned over and spray painted gold with a little gewgaws stuck to it. It's literally a dinner plate that they or a hubcap from a 34 Ford, possibly. That would be funny. That would be Ed Wood territory. Ah, these flying saucers, no one will notice. Ah, they're hubcaps. More. I think it's definitely Ed Wood territory, but yeah, Plan 9 from outer space. But yeah, the Ed Wood movie, which made them even more popular for the worst bad movie, good movie. It isn't a worst movie ever. It's not the category with Plan 9 from outer space, but it's not something where you can pick apart every scene and laugh at it as much as just kind of like, wow, this is kind of sad. It's like, okay, yeah. So Mars needs women or not.